Can a landlocked nation that has previously struggled with security instability transform its military into a formidable force that can defeat foreign threats and insurgencies without pleading for assistance from the West? Burkina Faso's Air Force is in the forefront of their efforts to demonstrate that they are doing more than just talking the talk. The Burkinabe Air Force has changed so dramatically under President Ibrahim Traoré's creative leadership that it might unnerve even the most powerful military nations. This goes beyond simply purchasing brand new drones or jets. It's about a nation declaring that it has had enough of being dependent on other people. Now is the moment to take charge. What precisely has Burkina Faso done to transform from a country fighting militants to one with one of the best air forces in the neighborhood? Let's investigate. Resources aren't exactly abundant in Burkina Faso. Despite having a modest military budget, the nation is constantly threatened by terrorist cells and insurgency groups that operate throughout the vast and unstable Sahel region. Nevertheless, the Burkinabe Air Force has accomplished something noteworthy. It has brought its air fleet up to a level that many bigger, more affluent countries are still attempting to reach. What did they do then? No magic was involved. It was a calculated move, putting technology first and making a sincere effort to be independent. Burkina Faso accomplished this essentially by concentrating on what really counts: state-of-the-art technology that may provide the Air Force a competitive advantage in this intricate battlefield. This can initially appear to be a dream. Ultimately, Burkina Faso lacks the financial muscle of more powerful African nations such as South Africa or Egypt. However, the Burkinabe administration chose a different approach. Rather than attempting to match their expensive expenditures on extensive military hardware, they concentrated on making investments in the most important sectors that would yield both short-term and long-term gains. The goal of the Burkinabe Air Force was to be the most strategic, nimble, and self-sufficient military force in Africa, not the most powerful. Drones were among the earliest and most important investments Burkina Faso made. And no, we're not referring to the typical consumer-grade unmanned aerial vehicles that you would see in a backyard belonging to a hobbyist. These are extremely sophisticated drones for surveillance that were created to specifically address the requirements of the Burkinabe Air Force. The Air Force's capacity to continuously provide real-time intelligence while monitoring large areas of land is mostly dependent on drones. Imagine it as a fleet of flying eyes that are always looking across the horizon. This enables the Air Force to identify possible dangers before they become real, and stop them before they get out of hand. However, these drones are not merely technological devices. For a country that has been dependent on outside aid for far too long, they'd mark a significant advancement. Burkina Faso made the decision to develop its own fleet of unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs, rather than investing in costly foreign surveillance systems that would deplete scarce resources and take an eternity to arrive. This choice was crucial. Burkina Faso became more independent in addition to having better intelligence-gathering skills. Burkina Faso no longer had to wait for orders from overseas suppliers to be fulfilled. They could now launch these drones whenever they wanted them. By acting as the eyes of the sky, the UAVs were able to gather vital intelligence on the activities of insurgents, their concealed weapon stores, and the supply lines they were using to enter the area. Furthermore, these drones relied on more than just satellites, in contrast to traditional intelligence systems. They could collect intelligence in areas that satellites couldn't even reach and fly low, navigating challenging terrain. It's important to note how cost-effective this strategy is. Many countries continue to spend billions on foreign surveillance technology, but Burkina Faso was able to construct an advanced fleet of drones at a fraction of the price. They obtained a significant tactical edge by eliminating the intermediary. Furthermore, this is not a one-time purchase. Burkina Faso keeps developing its drone capabilities, so they are prepared for any future developments. However, Burkina Faso's armory of modern technology isn't limited to drones. Burkina Faso focused on its fighter airplanes and combat planes to supplement their surveillance drones. These aircraft are not your typical military jets. They were carefully picked because of their capacity to function in Burkina Faso's diverse and complicated terrain, which includes both broad savannas and rocky mountains. These latest additions to the fleet are precisely the kind of aircraft the nation needed to launch precision strikes against insurgent forces hidden in hard-to-reach, remote places. These fighter jets can execute precision airstrikes with surgical accuracy because they are agile and extremely maneuverable. Whether it's eliminating rebel strongholds in the mountains or destroying militants' training grounds in the middle of the bush, Burkina Faso's fighter jets are built to be extremely versatile and effective. As a result, they are able to go beyond basic defense and engage the insurgents directly, denying them any refuge. Additionally, Burkina Faso's Air Force has the firepower it needs to retaliate against insurgent troops thanks to these aircraft's sophisticated weapons and precise targeting systems. These jets provide Burkina Faso's military complete control over its region, whether it is through direct airstrikes against enemy positions or close air support for ground troops. A key reaction to the evolving nature of Sahelian combat is the strategic choice to invest in this type of precision technology. Because they are highly mobile and tend to hide among civilian populations or in difficult-to-reach places, insurgent organizations are not big armies. In this setting, conventional military techniques like massive bombing campaigns or artillery attacks just aren't effective. However, these specialist aircraft, they give Burkina Faso the precise kind of firepower it requires to neutralize threats and reduce collateral damage. This is where the true test begins. Add your voice to the total liberation of Africa by leaving a comment in the comments section below. Do not forget to like and subscribe for more informative videos like this one. Let's proceed. If the Air Force is unable to swiftly implement these technological advancements to neutralize the threats before they become unmanageable, what good are they? Time is running out, and a few hours can be the difference between life and death in the counterinsurgency world. It's important to move quickly. In order to address this, Burkina Faso ensured that its infrastructure could support the quick rollout of these cutting-edge technologies, rather than merely concentrating on technology. The establishment of airbases in key locations throughout the nation guarantees that the Air Force can react in a matter of hours in the event of a threat. These airbases aren't your typical establishments. They are intentionally constructed, is mostly backed by logistical infrastructure that enable quick turnaround. It is possible to swiftly refuel and rearm aircraft so they are prepared for the next flight. Burkina Faso's strategy includes this infrastructure upgrading as a key component. The Air Force can eliminate threats before they become more serious the sooner it can use its modern jets and drones. Having cutting-edge technology is one thing, but having the infrastructure to enable its quick implementation is quite another. Burkina Faso has positioned itself to be more nimble by placing its military posts close to hotspots, allowing it to react to rebel actions before they get out of hand. The Air Force's ability to confound rebels with its speed and technology, however, is where this tactic truly shines. Insurgents in the Sahel are notorious for their ability to cross borders swiftly, establish operations, and then disappear just as quickly. This is something that the Burkinabe Air Force has learned to expect, and with their technology, they are one step ahead of the adversary in terms of speed and accuracy. Therefore, Burkina Faso's Air Force modernization journey is more than merely a technological one. It's a tale of creativity, flexibility, and foresight. Burkina Faso has demonstrated that a tiny country can compete on the international scene without a large military budget by selecting technology that provides them a tactical edge, drones that can see everything, jets that can strike quickly, and bases that can react instantly. There is more to the combination of fighter jets and sophisticated surveillance drones than merely showing off military might. The goal is to develop a defense system that is self-sufficient and independent of outside forces or vendors. Burkina Faso has taken action and is changing how small countries in the Sahel protect themselves from the escalating threats. Let's now discuss the next important component. How does Burkina Faso maintain its leadership position in its quickly upgraded Air Force? In terms of knowledgeable staff, purchasing the newest fighter jets and drones is one thing, but if you don't have the necessary personnel to fly them, all that glitzy equipment is just a showpiece. Thankfully, Burkina Faso has a well-defined plan to train its personnel and transform them into professionals capable of using the most cutting-edge military equipment. Furthermore, they do not depend on foreign training programs or contractors. Burkina Faso has instead made the audacious choice to develop its own talent. This goes beyond simply saying, "We can do it ourselves." This is a calculated strategic move to build an independent and sustainable air force that isn't dependent on anyone, particularly the West. It's also effective. Investing in your people is one of the best things you can do when your nation has limited resources. Indeed, Burkina Faso has done just that. The Burkinabe government has set up specialized military colleges to train its workforce from the ground up rather than sending its future engineers, technicians, and pilots abroad for training. The fundamentals of flying are not the only thing taught at these courses. They aim to produce specialists who are more familiar with Burkina Faso's terrain, populace, and difficulties than any outsider could be. She was not deterred by the absence of other female pilots in the Burkina Faso Air Force at the time. I held onto this dream. I took care of it. And I didn't hesitate when the Air Force gave me the chance to recognize it. I'm a pilot now because I took a chance. 7 years have passed since then, and she is now a fully qualified transport pilot in the Air Force, actively participating in the nation's fight against terrorist organizations associated with Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. As Burkina Faso's first female military pilot, she claims she hasn't encountered any more challenges than a man, aside from possibly increased performance pressure. Therefore, you are the center of attention when you are the only woman in a group of males. I had to put in more effort than the others to demonstrate that I could pilot like the males since your work is closely examined. Consider attempting to carry out military operations in Burkina Faso's untamed, varied terrain. Jet flight isn't the only thing involved. Comprehending the local topography, identifying potential hiding places for insurgents, and possessing cultural sensitivity enable military troops to collaborate with local communities. Foreign-trained recruits would find it difficult to duplicate that. By providing local training to its Air Force troops, Burkina Faso guarantees that its soldiers are capable of handling the particular security issues of their country in addition to operating advanced equipment. In addition to helping the Air Force, local training fosters a strong sense of pride in the country and independence. These recruits are committed to protecting their own nation and possess the abilities needed to do so successfully. Burkina Faso can achieve a tactical advantage that is developed internally by reducing its need on foreign military forces and contractors with the help of local knowledge. And producing highly skilled recruits isn't the only goal. Additionally, a mentorship program that matches seasoned officers with fresh recruits has been implemented in Burkina Faso. In addition to providing the Air Force with fresh talent, this approach develops future leaders who are capable of handling responsibility. Mentoring is more than just imparting technical skills. It involves teaching leadership, decision-making, and flexibility. When it comes to modern warfare, these attributes are essential, particularly in a nation like Burkina Faso, where the security environment is subject to sudden changes. Consider it. The most advanced aircraft can be flown by recruits trained by the Air Force. However, under pressure, those recruits still need to learn how to make precise, timely decisions. They must be able to lead emergency situations, collaborate with local communities to obtain intelligence, and foster trust among their peers. Regardless of how quickly the threat environment changes, the Air Force is never left without experienced leadership because to this mentorship. This mentorship will have a big long-term influence. It goes beyond simply developing a workforce with the necessary skills. The goal is to guarantee a steady supply of capable leaders who are aware of the subtleties of Burkina Faso's military operations. These leaders have a thorough awareness of the operational requirements on the ground and have already been in combat. The overall efficacy and adaptability of the Air Force to changing threats are enhanced by this continuity. Here's the reality though. You can't afford to stop learning in modern warfare. As technology advances, new strategies appear, and fresh dangers appear. Therefore, the Air Force of Burkina Faso is dedicated to ongoing training and growth, even though local recruitment and mentorship are essential. The Air Force cannot afford to sit on its laurels in a world where adversaries are constantly changing. Burkina Faso has made significant investments in its employees' continuous professional development. The Air Force ensures that its troops are continuously informed about the newest tactics, technologies, and combat techniques through specialized training, simulated combat scenarios, and partnerships with other nations. Things start to become intriguing at this point. Burkina Faso makes sure that its soldiers are exposed to new concepts, fighting methods, and technologies by incorporating international cooperation and cooperative exercises with other African countries. This keeps them competitive and smart in a continuously changing global security environment. The goal of this ongoing training is to keep the Air Force ready for any situation, not merely to grasp the newest technology. Employees of Burkina Faso are taught to be quick thinkers, adjust to shifting conditions, and remain ahead of opposing strategies. In the dynamic field of counterinsurgency, where tactics from the past might not be effective today, this flexibility is essential. Let's zoom out for a moment now. Training, mentoring, and ongoing growth all seem fantastic, but are they long-term viable? Will the Air Force of Burkina Faso be able to meet the difficulties of the future, especially as the threats it encounters become more complex? Yes, but only if they continue to expand upon this base. Burkina Faso is building a system that can adapt to the shifting security environment by emphasizing domestic talent, mentoring, and ongoing professional growth. The Air Force already has a self-sustaining ecosystem that develops internally, so it doesn't need to rely on outside training programs or specialists. With this strategy, Burkina Faso can swiftly adjust to new difficulties and keep gaining the knowledge necessary to meet them head-on. The finest part comes next. The Air Force is not the only organization that may use this model. Burkina Faso is creating a larger culture of competent individuals who can support the nation's overall security, economics, and technological growth by funding education and training initiatives, along with learning vital skills that they may use in other fields like technology, engineering, and logistics. These young recruits are being prepared to defend their nation. In the end, this approach strengthens the country as a whole in addition to the Air Force. As Burkina Faso's labor force continues to change, in an increasingly complex environment, it is developing a sustainable strategy that enables it to remain independent and competitive. Let's conclude the video with a straightforward query. Is Burkina Faso prepared for self-defense? In light of all we've spoken about, the answer is unquestionably yes. Burkina Faso has achieved great progress in self-defense thanks to its modernized air force, domestically trained troops, and smart technology investments. The nation has established a highly competent, independent military force that can react quickly to any attack within its borders, eliminating the need for outside assistance. Burkina Faso now has the means to precisely monitor and battle insurgents, from sophisticated surveillance drones to agile fighter jets. Threats are dealt with before they become more serious thanks to its strategic air bases and quick deployment capabilities. More significantly, the country's dedication to creating a knowledgeable, domestic workforce ensures that its air force will continue to be robust and capable of handling new challenges. Burkina Faso's military is definitely in a considerably stronger position than it was a few years ago, even though no military is ever completely impregnable. It has developed a military that can protect its independence and withstand changing security threats. The nation is now a shining example of how countries can overcome their limited resources and achieve their security needs without seeking outside assistance. Do you believe that more countries ought to take Burkina Faso's steps? What would happen if every African country gained the strength of Burkina Faso? Do you think Africa still requires Western assistance? Tell us what you think in the comments section below. We explore the rich history, culture, and the ongoing struggle for sovereignty in Africa. Join us in this important conversation by subscribing to our channel. By subscribing, you're not just staying informed, you're becoming part of a movement dedicated to reclaiming Africa's rightful place on the global stage. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Let's work together to spread knowledge and inspire change. Thanks for watching.